Very, very important, because a disturbed mind will give rise to dharma. Once it arises, once birth will happen, all the thing will follow. It's going to sustain, it's going to decay, it's going to die. And again with death, birth will follow. The cycle will begin. So if we don't let it arise, there is no death, because there is no birth. Okay, so you are able to do that only through practice of Sunya. So when you practice and you focus on 9 to 0, 29 to 0, 99 to 0, many a times mind will wander, you again bring it back. You're conditioning the mind to not even give rise to a thought. Because no thought is arisen, there is nothing being born. Because there is nothing being born, there is nothing going to die. You will learn to live in the moment, the present moment. You will be able to act as it is. That is practicing Smriti as it is. Namaste and good morning to everyone. We are back on our Sunday Shunya Talk series as we continue on the second episode of the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra. Last week, Sunday, we did the first chapter, and for the people who don't know what Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra is, we would definitely want them to go back and look at that episode. To make it in brief, Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra is one of the earliest references on the practice of Anapana Sati, or the practice of focusing the mind and controlling the thoughts, that what we understood in the Diamond Sutra, on the practice and how the practice is. So you can call this as the manual of Shunya. Okay, and we are trying to understand it, we are trying to study it. Okay, there is no kind of teaching that I am giving here. This is just a study session. We are studying it together, because teaching was done 2,500 years ago, before, a long time back. And we thank the great contributor, the translator of this sutra, because it was originally in Takshashila. And in Takshashila, this sutra, where Anshekar, the great Persian king, who was actually supposed to become the king, the prince, he left everything, even the royal lineage, only to promote this sutra. So the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra, the original Sanskrit to Chinese translation and compilation, was done by Anshekar. He's also called as Anshigao, but since to make it more Indianized, and because we sure he was called as Anshekar, and the pronunciation is only the thing that matters. So we will call him Anshekar. And if you, that particular sutra was again identified from Chinese, and from Chinese it was translated back to English by our great, guide and teacher, Dr. Lim. That means Acharya Nagajiva. He translated that into English from Chinese. And we have this version that is as it is. And we are studying that. Last week we finished the first chapter. Today we're going to do chapter 2. Okay, so now that we have all focused our mind, let's go directly, without wasting our time, to chapter 2. And the name of the chapter 2 is Anapana and Smriti. Let's recap what we did in the last episode. We understood what is Ana. That's the inhalation of breath, and we have to observe that inhalation. That is called Ana. The observing of exhalation of breath is called Apana. What is Smriti? We understood what is Samatha and Vipassana. Focusing of the mind is called Samatha. Vipassana means the mind, observing the mind being focused on the body and the mind itself, is called Vipassana, the ability to see through. So now we understand the meaning of Sunya is nothing but Ana, Apana, Samatha, Vipassana. It's a long form. So Sunya is basically Anapana and Samatha Vipassana. And that is why Smriti, you should understand, is practicing Samatha Vipassana together, focusing the mind and observing the mind. These are two things. So one, if you look at it, these two things are done alternatively. They are done concurrently, means together also, and you need to do that. But when you do it together or you do it alternatingly, both have their reason for doing it. Okay, so you do it based on the conditions what you're doing. So Smriti is the practicing of Samatha and Vipassana. Okay, what do we use for that? Ana and Apana as a medium through which we observe the dharma. Now let's go to Anapana and Smriti, chapter 2. It starts like this. Hear, O monks, a monk observes the breathing. He practices the counting of the breathing. Now comes that endorsement. Where is the counting coming from? It comes from the oldest references in the sutra that is very close to Buddha's time. So we for sure know now that the lineage that we have, our lineage is from Buddha to through the sutras. It has been passed down through Anshekhar to Kumarji. Then we have Chai and all those things all the way from Dr. Lim. It is coming to us. So we have a lineage that is very clear. And we always in Sunya refer to Sutra. So now the first line of chapter 2 of the Sutra on Maha Anapana Smriti says, here, again, significance to time at that moment, here. Okay, to let you know, here means it was basically in Shravasti that Bhagwan was having this particular session, because he was performing Anapana, mind focusing for 90 days. Remember, even Buddha was practicing Anapana for 90 days. Okay, he stayed undisturbed for 90 days to contemplate on how to enlighten people from all directions and deliver them and all beings from suffering. So he had a purpose there, that I have found the way. How do I offer this to the world? So 90 days he is able to focus his mind through Anapana so that he is able to find an answer to that. And then as you see in the chapter 1, Buddha actually gets the benevolence, he gets that compassion that is born automatically, that through teaching he can do this. And that is why the teachings come in. Here, O monks, a monk observes the breathing. He practices the counting of breathing. Okay, two things. He observes the breathing and he practices the counting of breathing. That's exactly what we do in Sunya. If you look at it, we observe the breathing and we do counting of the breathing. Next page we go. O monks, a monk when inhales, he observes his body. When exhales, he observes the breathing, becomes subtle. So again, observes is very important. O monks, a monk when inhales, he observes his body. When you inhale, you observe the body. Okay, you observe the inhalation. When exhales, he observes the breathing. When he exhales, he observes the breathing. So while inhalation, he is observing the body. While exhalation, he is observing the breath. And he sees that it becomes subtle. It becomes very, very subtle. Okay. Third, O monks, when a monk practices samatha, he is to abstain and not to harm, not to do a harm. He knows abstaining is actually an act of protection, protecting one from being harmed or to prevent one from doing harm. So now, O monks, when a monk practices samatha, now we remember we were studying smriti and samatha comes in. So samatha, when he is practicing samatha, he is to abstain and not to do harm. Means he should be away from anything that is going to harm. Not only him, but even others. So he stays away and does not participate in harming himself or others. He knows abstaining, means staying away, is actually an act of protection. He knows that it is an act of protection, protecting one from being harmed or to prevent one from doing harm. Even preventing himself from, being harmed or by getting involved in doing some harm. He abstains from everything, and that he realizes is basically samatha. So, not being a participant, not being involved in something is samatha. Automatically, when you are not a part of it, it is not something that you are involved in, you just get out of it, you are already practicing samatha. And that's exactly what we do in observing the breath. When you're observing the breath, you're not participating, you're getting out of the participation. You will have this feeling that let me take the breath. Don't do that. We just observe. When you actually abstain from participating, when you abstain from harming, okay, harming means even arming. See, the word harm itself means arming, means to empower yourself. We don't do that. We just observe. Let's go to the next slide. Oh monks, when a monk practices vipassana, he focuses on the breathing and holding to the dharma. Now, in vipassana, what we do is we focus on the breathing and holding to the dharma. What is our dharma? When we are looking in samatha, we are trying to focus the mind so that the mind settles down, an agitated mind settles down. And that what we do is by not participating in it, not harming oneself or not getting instigated to harm or being a part of harming. Okay. And in vipassana, what we do is we focus on the breathing and holding of the dharma. We just focus on the breathing. Mind will wander here and there. We don't let it go. We come here. Again, please keep your focus on the breathing. And the dharma means the nature of the breath. How is the breath going in? What is the breath doing? You're going into the details of the dharma. Dharma means the nature of the breath. When I say dharma, you should understand it is the arising, that is the birth, then its sustenance, that is growth, and then its decay, that is when it's getting over, and last is the end, death. So, birth, sustenance, decay, and death. These are the four stages in which dharma operates. So, you see your breath coming in, it's going in, you observe it going in, then you observe it coming out and going out. So, you see the dharma of the breath. And this is vipassana. So, samatha means abstaining, means not being a participant, and vipassana means observing, okay, and holding on to the dharma. Oh monks, when a monk practices smriti, he attaches to nothing. When you are practicing smriti again we studied last time is samatha and vipassana. You attach to nothing. Today also in the morning session, Dr. Lim has told us, learn to be there as an observer without being attached to anything. The good, the bad, the nice feeling, the bad feeling, we attach to nothing. The rewards, the failures, we attach to nothing. So monk, when a monk practices smriti, he attaches to nothing. He knows if attached to anything, then it is not smriti. The monk knows that if he is attached to something, that is not smriti. He knows when the mind arises, it should be extinguished. Okay. He knows that when the mind arises, it should be extinguished. He knows with the right observation of dharma, the mind becomes quiet and no longer arises. So, he knows that with the right observation of the dharma, when you look at it, when you look at the dharma, you look at the phenomena, we know that the mind becomes quiet. And once it becomes quiet, it no longer arises. The most important thing is the mind arises because it is not quiet. Once it is quiet, it does not arise. Okay. This is the right practice of smriti. So basically what we are doing is we are quietening the mind. We are actually making the mind go static. You can say making it more quieter and more stable. Because this distorted mind creates things. Once the mind is not distorted and is stable, is not moving here and there, it does not create anything. And because it does not create anything, it does not seem to exist on itself, because the mind does not exist anything. That is why it is said that the mind no longer arises. It does not come out. This is the right practice of Smriti. Okay. Next. O monks, Smriti is not to let the mind arise. Because when there is birth, then death will follow. This is not Smriti. But if there is death, then birth will follow too. No, so never force the mind to die off. This is not Smriti. Now, very clearly the sutra is explaining what is Smriti. Smriti is not to let the mind arise. First, don't let the mind get disturbed. Because once there is disturbance, there will be something that will be born. Because when there is birth, when something that will be born, it will die for sure. Okay? And death will follow. This is not Smriti. Because if once the birth has come and you allowed the mind to arise, then death will follow. That is not Smriti. If there is death, but if you forcibly try to end something, you try to push something or kill something, a feeling or something, it's already arisen, but now you're trying to kill it. Anyways it is going to die, but you are trying to force to kill it. What is going to happen? Birth will follow. A next thing the mind will give rise to something else. Like pressure, if pressure is coming, okay, you try to cover from one side, the pressure will go to another side. It will go. For sure it will go in some other way. So every time you force even death, birth will again come. So, but if there is death, then birth will follow too. So never force the mind to die off. So never even force the mind to die off. This is not Smriti. So Smriti, they have explained which is not Smriti. One, not to let the mind arise, and not to force the mind to be dead. Both things. Because if there is birth, death will follow. And if there is death, birth will follow too. This is the cycle. Now apply this. Okay. You get angry. Okay. You first don't let it come. Okay. You can do that. You can just observe. Oh, this is what is happening, So suppose somebody is just taking a pin and poking me. I just observe that as a pin poking me. I don't get worried at all. I don't do anything. Leave it. Maybe he will do for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, he will leave it. But imagine if I know there is this anger that is arising, but I don't get attached. I don't let the mind arise, give rise to that anger. Because once the anger comes in, it will definitely arise. Birth will come in. With birth, definitely death will come in, because that anger will try to manifest itself. Maybe I'll say something. It will create a cycle of events. And then maybe my language will change. Maybe my action will change. Everything. A new birth has come. That little instant of me giving rise to that anger, which I could have observed it and it could have not arisen. But I did not observe it. It came. It gave birth to so many things. With that, death will follow. One will die, the other one will come. The other one will die, other one will come. The cycle will continue. And that's why what I do is I observe, I don't let it arise. Okay, because if I let it arise, that is not Smriti. Second, when I'm angry and I suppress my anger, somehow I go and drink alcohol and I want to suppress it. You think the anger is gone? No, it has just been suppressed. You have just killed it. It will be born in some other way. In some other form, it will come again. So always remember, if birth is there, death will follow. If death is there, birth will definitely happen of something new. Nothing is just going to stay like that. The only way where nothing is born and nothing is dying is when it is still, when it is stable. And that is why we always say the state of Sunya is a state of no birth and no death. It's a state of complete quietness of the mind. Okay, it's not no mind. It is quietness, the stillness of the mind. Okay. Now, O monks, a monk knows this in order to observe the mind and understands the dharma. Okay, so one who is practicing Maha Anapana Smriti knows what Smriti is and what Smriti is not. A monk knows this in order to observe the mind and understands the dharma. So he knows this to observe the mind and understand the dharma. When there is birth, then death follows. When there is death, then birth follows. He knows this. So, because he knows that, he is practicing Smriti. Next slide. A monk just exerts sufficiently to observe the mind. Now, how much effort does he put to observe the mind? Just sufficiently, not a lot of exertion. Just sufficiently to observe the mind. If you are looking at something, you cannot look at with lot of effort. You should see it as it is with the minimum effort, sufficiently. Okay. So, a monk just exerts sufficiently to observe the mind as it is. Okay. Does not encourage the arisen mind or forces the arisen mind to stop functioning. Okay. Now, he just observes the mind as it is. He does not encourage the arisen mind. Many a times the mind arises. When I say mind arises, means the mind is getting disturbed to bring in a new dharma, a new character, a new feeling. Could be a concept, an idea. The mind is started to bring that. So when he knows that, he observes the mind as it is, does not encourage, he does not encourage the arisen mind or forces the arisen mind to stop functioning. Okay. Just sees it appears and then sees its cessation. Now, a monk who practices Maha Anapana Smriti knows that if something is born, it is going to grow, it's going to decay, and it's going to die. That is dharma. So, once something is born, he is going to observe it. And he is going to wait till it dies off. He is not going to arouse it, not going to tempt. So, somebody is getting angry. Again, I am going to anger. Because that is the most common thing I think so everybody face. Somebody is getting angry. If you go and instigate him and arouse him, he'll get double angry. You mean to see that this person can be instigated and his actually dharma can become worse. See, he get more higher up. Okay, he will sustain, then it will go down for sure, but it will take a long time. As long as you encourage it to go up, the longer it will take to go down. But if you ignore it, somebody's anger, you just observe it. Okay, she's getting angry. Okay, fine. You observe it is arisen, it will go off. Nobody can be angry 24/7. Anger is a very short-lived entity. Okay, if you just do not instigate, that's what he is saying. If you do not encourage the mind, arisen mind, or force the arisen mind to stop function. Nah, you keep quiet, you shout at it, but again try to bring anger within you. Then what you are doing actually both ways, you will not be able to stop it. So what you do, you just observe. Observe what it is, you know after some time it is going to go away. If anybody practices this in today's relationships, I think only observing can solve 99% of our problems in relationships. Very, very important part here. Okay. He just sees it appears and then sees it cessation. He knows that all the dharma that are born will die. So he doesn't worry. He just observes it. And then he sees everything changing again. That is the real practice of Maha Anapana Smriti. Okay, next slide. O monks. And so the practices of a monk should include the 37 Bodhi ways or Bodhi Pakika. 2. Now, that is why here they are talking about the 37 Bodhi ways, and we will study that later someday. Reference here is because this is a compilation of the sutra. So remember, sutra is a thread that holds different teachings together. So we cannot just hold one sutra and say this is it. Every sutra leads us to another sutra, another sutra, another sutra. Overall, we will study the whole teaching. Okay, how do we do that? One after the other. So these 37 Bodhi ways we will definitely study in future. So he should know that this includes the 37 Bodhi ways. Making the practice of Smriti becomes complete and successful. How? When you follow the path of Bodhi, of awareness, you will realize that or the practice of Smriti becomes complete and successful. O monks, here are 10 wisdoms in Smriti. So this Smriti, the Samatha Vipassana that we are practicing, there are 10 wisdoms in it. Okay, Pragya. Referring to 1, breath counting. Breath counting itself, okay, is 1. Breath following, okay. Samatha, Vipassana, returning, cleansing, and noble truths of suffering. So, noble truth of the cause of suffering, noble truth of the end of suffering, and noble truth of the way to end the suffering. These 10 wisdoms will lead to achievement in Anapana Smriti. What is the result? What is the outcome of me practicing Anapana Smriti? The wisdom that you will cultivate. What wisdom? First, 10 wisdoms you are talking about. 10 wisdom. Which one? First is breath counting. Okay, it is a wisdom that you will acquire. When you will acquire the counting, breath counting as one wisdom, okay, which we do 9 to 0 when we practice our, this thing, Sunya. We see that we learn to count the breath. Okay, then breath counting, breath following. When you go from the red to the orange belt, you're following the breath. You're going on the double count. Okay, then you will also develop the wisdom of samatha. You will start seeing that even your breath, by only observing, your mind is able to settle down. So every time you will be able to go into a state where the mind is disturbed, you will actually have the wisdom to settle it down. You will know when to settle down. Not only you, wherever you are and you have others' minds that are unsettled, you will have the wisdom to even settle their minds. That is the power it has. Okay, Vipassana, you will get the special view to see the mind that is undisturbed, and you will be able to get the mind to settle down. Even the view will be right. Returning, many a times we do not have the skill to return back to the things, the base. Okay, this skill also you come, because if you look at this practice of Shunya also, we are actually moving, toggling up between the belts. So we go, if our mind is unsettled, we go and do a 9 to 0 again. Okay, then we go slowly up. If it is again not working, again we go back. So returning, many a time people have this problem, the wisdom of returning is not there. That's where the ego builds up. Once the ego builds up, he is not ready to return. You promote somebody to the highest position in the company from the lowest position. The next day you tell him, go back to that position. He is not ready. He will leave the job, but he will never go back to the same position. Returning is so difficult because returning is humbling. That is a wisdom you need to acquire. Even, in war, when to return, when to attack is an art. Okay, so returning wisdom, you should know when to withdraw and when to enter. This is a wisdom that you acquire by the practice of Samatha Vipassana. Then cleansing. Cleansing is a wisdom that you will acquire. You know how not needed things are not needed at all. You learn the art of saying no to majority of the things. Cleansing happens because you are able to say no to many things, and automatically the mind is able to focus, and because you are able to not get distracted anymore. This is cleansing. Then because you are watching the dharma, you are watching something, you also get the wisdom, the 4 noble truths, the Arya Satya, what we call the 4 noble truths. You start seeing that, you see that the truth of suffering. What is suffering? Something is born, it is, growing, it is now decaying, and it is dying. And when you look at it, you realize this is suffering. So you see this truth between everything that you observe. Everything you observe, you see the same pattern is being followed. And then you see this, that this is the truth of suffering. Then you know the noble truth of the cause of suffering. You know there is a cause behind anything that is arising. It's the disturbed mind. Once the mind is disturbed, it is going to arise. Once it arises, birth, death will follow. When death is there, birth will again follow. You know that. So, you know the cause of suffering. Noble truth of end of suffering. But you also know that there is a way to end the suffering. Okay, if you don't let the mind to arise. If the mind does not arise, there is no more birth. When there is no more birth, There is no more death. And that is the cycle itself is broken out. Then you also understand the noble truth of the way to end the suffering, and you know the way to do that. Once you know the way, you will see that even breath, when you're practicing shunya, when you observe the breath, you see the breath is coming in, going out, coming in, going out. Only by observing you see that it is coming, it is rising, it is going, coming, rising, going. You are seeing this cycle. It is birth, and you start seeing that it arises in the mind. You can actually see the breath coming and going, but over a period of time, when the mind settles, your breath also settles. There are times where you sit as if no breath is happening at all. This state is called samadhi, where you are there, but the mind is settled, and because the mind is settled, the breath is also settled, and there is no breathing happening. And it is a complete state of stillness. You have seen into this, and now you have understood that what was the cause of suffering that was coming and going. By observing, my mind was not giving rise to anything because of which even breath was not happening. I know the way to end suffering. That is samatha and vipassana. You know that. These 10 wisdoms will lead to achievement in Anapana Smriti. These 10 wisdoms, they will lead to achievement in Anapana Smriti. So you can actually, by all the shunyatis who practice shunya, they can actually experience these 10 wisdoms, and they will actually gain that even if they don't want to. By only practicing, they can gain this wisdom. So, O monks, Smriti is like a lamp. It has two functions. One is to destroy the darkness. Second is to shine. A lamp, what does a lamp do? When you burn a lamp, it does two things. One, all the darkness is gone. That's one thing. But the second thing is, it also shines. Everybody sees the lamp also. Not only that the darkness is gone, but they also see the shining lamp itself. So, two functions. Similarly, firstly, the Smriti can destroy ignorance. Once you practice Anapana Smriti, you see it will destroy ignorance, the darkness. Second, it will lead you to wisdom. It will shine forth. You will start shining forth the lamp. So, two things you'll get. One, ignorance gone. Second, wisdom is now shining forth. People will see the wisdom. Wow. They will automatically realize that your ignorance is gone, because there is no more ignorance left, because you are able to see things clearly. O monks, Smriti is referred to where the mind arises due to causes and conditions. Okay. Smriti is to refer to where the mind arises due to causes and conditions. Now, all the things, why does the mind get disturbed? Because there should be a cause for the disturbance, and there should be conditions which cause the disturbance of the mind. And Smriti is to know, or to be aware, to refer where the mind arises due to causes and conditions. One should not attach to all these causes and conditions. Hence, if you are not attached to causes that lead to the disturbance of the mind, conditions that lead to the disturbance of the mind, no way the mind is going to arise. This is Smriti. But observe them as third and separated objects. So these cause and conditions, do not attach to them. Just observe them as third or separated objects. This is Smriti. To observe as a third person, as a drishta, as we see, the observer, is what Smriti is. Good, observe good. Bad, observe bad. Not good, not bad, observe not good, not bad. This is Smriti, without being attached to neither good nor bad. Even neutrality, nothing, just an observer. O monks, in the practice of Smriti, there are three types of people. One is who can focus without disturbance. So now they are talking about people who are going to practice Smriti. They are going to be three types of people. One, who can focus without disturbance. They can directly go into focusing without any disturbance. Let the mind stay calm and do not arise. Second type is, they let the mind stay calm, okay, and do not let it arise. Then second type is this is the first type. One is who can focus without disturbance. How can they focus without disturbance? Is because they can let the mind stay calm and do not let it arise. Okay. Second type is when the mind arises. Okay. He realizes and keep observing it until naturally it is subdued as it is. So the first time he is able to focus, okay, he keeps the mind so calm that the mind does not arise at all. Okay, that's one type. Second is the mind arises. He realizes it that the mind has arisen. He observes it until naturally it is subdued as it is. Okay, now let's finish these two. Now when I'm saying mind, okay, you cannot define mind until it actually manifests itself into something. Okay. Now, for example, again, let's go back to the simplest one, the anger. Okay. There are people who do not get angry. Okay. They are focused. You tell them they don't get angry because they know how to calm the mind and they do not let anger come at all in them. That's a great state. If you can achieve something like that. You cannot get angry at all, but you know that I know my mind is so calm and I don't let any anger arise in me. Very rarely you can find somebody like that who is able to focus directly without disturbance. Then there are second type of people. Yeah, resume. Okay, so apologies from the studio here. It seems that we had a power failure or internet going down. So we are resuming our talk again. Maybe if you are able to join, we wait for a few minutes because it was getting pretty interesting now. Even I was completely into the teaching mode. So let's see if everything okay. You all can give a thumbs up or something on the comment section if everybody is here. So what is Manjunath saying? Now okay? Okay, very good, very good. So now Manjunath giving okay. Shashank also saying okay. Oh, very good. So let's continue the momentum. Okay. So it's getting interesting here. We were on, let's go back to this thing, the third type. So we were looking at the three types. Okay. One who does not get angry at all. He knows how to stay calm. Such a person is very rare. If you meet him, just hug him. Okay. Second time is one who knows that he is getting angry, the mind is arising, but he knows that it is arising, he watches it arise and let it pass away. So he also knows how to manage his anger. The third one, the mind arises and the bad action has been done. See now, they are defining that the mind has arisen and the action is already defined it as bad action. So here in the sutra, it's saying the mind arises and the bad action is been done. He's already got angry and he's taken something and he's thrown and broken something. Already done. Such a person who has already acted out, okay, he should repent and correct it. He should repent that he has done this. Correct it. Even if it has to take the time of 10,000 kalpas to do so. Even if his action has arisen, he has to go and take the effort. He has to repent and correct it. That is what they are saying here. So, once the mind has arisen and the bad action has already been done, the only way out is to correct it, repent on it. There is no other way. So, again, you take the bottle, you throw in anger, what you are left with? Even if it takes 10 kalpas, means whatever time it takes, you have done it, you go and pick up the pieces of glass, you go and clean it up, you go and say sorry to everybody, you make sure that what you did, even if it takes 10 kalpas, you have to make sure that you repent for it. That is what is the way. So, three types of people who practice Smriti. Even the third one who is repenting, who is seeking forgiveness, who is correcting himself, is actually practicing Smriti. The first one who does not get angry, he is practicing Smriti. The second one who knows that he is getting angry but knows that he will not let the anger become an action, watches it, lets it settle down, he is practicing Smriti. And the third one, who has already done the action, but now he knows the only way to practice is to correct himself and repent on it. When he does it, all three are practicing Smriti. Oh monks, there are various meanings to Smriti. Carrying in 10 directions. So there are different meanings that they are giving to Smriti. Carrying in the 10 directions. To care about the 10 directions. All means being aware of all the things around you is also Smriti. Facing all conditions, whatever the conditions are in our life. To face every condition is Smriti. Realizing all situations, what situation you are in, what situation you are in, whatever it is, realizing all situations is Smriti. And not breaking the conduct, the Shila, is Smriti. This is Samatha. Okay. Now, so they are giving various meanings of Smriti. To start with, Smriti we know is Samatha Vipassana. Carrying in all directions. Now they are breaking this up. The sutra is breaking this up into two parts. We know Samatha and Vipassana, we do it alternatively. Carrying in 10 directions. Facing all conditions. Realizing all situations. And not breaking the conduct. This is Samatha. So what is Samatha? Is being aware of the 10 conditions, directions, facing all conditions, realizing all situations, and not breaking the Shila is basically Samatha. Knowing and viewing matters in 10 directions. Now, while you're carrying for the 10 directions, also knowing and viewing the matter, whatever exists in the 10 directions, is empty in nature. Whatever is there in these 10 directions, while you're caring for it, you also know that there is all these matter in these 10 directions are empty in nature. That means they are not static, they are not fixed, is Vipassana. Combine the two is Smriti. Okay, so again, Smriti is Samatha and Vipassana. What is Samatha? First, facing things, knowing things, situations. But to be aware that all the matters, everything, whatever has been born, whatever has come into existence, one that needs to settle. And we having the right view that everything is going to be born and everything is going to die and nothing is permanent. Okay, everything has basic empty nature is Vipassana. And Samatha Vipassana together is Smriti. Oh monks, there are 4 happinesses in practicing Smriti. Okay, 4 happinesses in practicing Smriti. One is knowing the essence of all the dharma and feeling happy. First is when you know the essence of all the dharma, all the things that arise in the mind or the mind arising, we know the essence of that and we feel happy. That is one happiness. Secondly is knowing the dharma of Buddha and feeling happy. Second is to know the dharma of Buddha himself and feeling happy. Thirdly is focus on the dharma and feel happy. The third one is to focus on the dharma and feel happy. Fourth is knowing the right practice of dhyana and feeling happy. When we know the right practice of dharma and dhyana and we feel happy. So 4 happiness. Now let's try to understand. One is once you know the meaning of something. Now when we watch the breath going in and out, okay, we start feeling happy when we start seeing the way the breath is going in. We start seeing the essence of breathing. We feel happy. That is one happiness. Secondly, knowing that what the dharma of Buddha, what is being taught, the 4 stages, that something arises, something will sustain, something will, start to decay and it will perish. We see that happening. We feel happiness in that. That is knowing the dharma of Buddha and feeling happy. The third is when you focus on the dharma and feel happy. Now you start focusing on this dharma, that everything, these 4 things happen and you feel happy with that. That is another happiness. Fourth is knowing that the right practice of dhyana. Oh, by this right practice of dhyana, I feel happy. All these 4 happiness are the happiness of practicing Smriti. Oh monks, there is 6 dharma gates of Smriti. Now this Smriti has 6 dharma gates. Okay. Gates are like opening. One gate opens, then it opens another gate, another gate, another gate. So there are 6 gates. First is breath counting. Okay. If you realize, we in a red belt, in orange belt, we do this first gate, breath counting. The second is following. Okay. If you look at the yellow belt, we follow the breath. Okay. Actually, all our belts, we do this one gate after the other. But to break it down into gates, it's like this. The first is breath counting. The second is following the breath. The third is samatha. Fourth is vipassana. Fifth is returning and cleansing. Cleansing is a result of all this. So first, we practice breath counting, 9 to 0, 29 to 0, 99 to 0. Then we do the double count, follow the breath, okay, going in and out. Then we observe the mind being focused, disturbed mind. We observe it doing that. That's samatha. Then we observe the mind doing the focusing, not losing the count. We observe the mind also. When the mind is going out, thoughts are coming, we observe that. That is vipassana. Okay. So one is calming the mind down. The other is to see whether the mind is disturbed or not. Vipassana. Then if we are not able to calm the mind, we go back to the practice, returning. Then we go back to returning to counting, following, samatha, vipassana is called returning. So you go flip-flop. And then finally we realize the whole thing and the whole cleansing happens. The mind is completely cleansed. Okay. And hence you can see the mind settles still. Why is this so? Why are these 6 dharma gates of Smriti? Why is this so? Why is it so? Because mind and breath follow each other. Today also doctor teaching us. The mind and the breath, they follow each other. If the mind is wandering, the breath will also wander. If the mind is still, the breath is still. This prepares the ground for the practices of counting. That is why, what is the ground for practicing the counting, the following? Because we know that the mind and the breath follow each other. That is why we are going to breathing. That is why we are going to Anapana Smriti. Why? Because the mind and the breath, they follow each other. Hence, we have the ground to practice counting, following, focusing and observing the breath. Because of that. Because we know that the mind and the breath are actually following each other. So for me, I cannot follow the mind, but if I follow the breath, I get access to the mind. Okay. Oh monks, a monk remains independent, detaches, and does not take up anything in the world. Now, when he practices Smriti, Anapana Smriti, what he is doing, he is remaining independent. He is not getting attached to anything. He observes this as a third person. Okay. He detaches and does not take up anything in the world. He detaches himself and does not take up anything in the world, does not let the mind arise. Okay. This is how he practices Anapana Smriti as it is. So how can one practice Anapana Smriti as it is? When he knows how to detach from all the dhammas that are happening around him, did not just become an observer to it, and then by observing the dharma as it is, he actually is practicing Smriti as it is. So by being a good observer, one is able to practice Smriti as it is. So this is what we do in Sunya too. We do not put extra effort. We put only effort that is sufficient enough for us to focus our mind to do our reverse count, follow the breath, okay, double count, observe the nature of the breath, that's in the yellow belt, and to scan the body. These are the things we do with our Shunya practice. This is BSV, Basic Samatha Vipassana. This is practicing Anapana Smriti. That means you are practicing Shunya. How? Because we do not attach to anything, not even reverse count, not even to double count, not even to no count, not even to scanning. We are not attached to anything, but we use all these 4 levels to move depending on the situation of our mind. If our mind is very agitated, we do our reverse count so that we can calm it down. How important is it to calm the mind? Very, very important, because a disturbed mind will give rise to dharma. Once it arises, once birth will happen, all the thing will follow. It's going to sustain, it's going to decay, it's going to die. And again with death, birth will follow. The cycle will begin. So if we don't let it arise, there is no death, because there is no birth. Okay, so you are able to do that only through practice of Sunya. So when you practice and you focus on 9 to 0, 29 to 0, 99 to 0, many a times mind will wander. You again bring it back. You're conditioning the mind to not even give rise to a thought. Because no thought is arisen, there is nothing being born. Because there is nothing being born, there is nothing going to die. You will learn to live in the moment, the present moment. You will be able to act as it is. That is practicing Smriti as it is. Okay, so you don't need a third person to judge what your practice is, how your practice, where it is leading. You will become your self-judge. If you can manage to not let thoughts arise in the mind, not any kind of thought, but focus on the action, on the dharma, and see that also stop. Even the observing of the breath, and you come to a point where even breath which is happening to you also stops. You know the mind is still. My breath has become still because my mind is still. And because of a still mind, I can see through everything very clearly, the nature of things. Now, with a still mind, I will not let dharma be born again, not arise anything. Okay? And again, we know that when we practice Smriti, there are three ways. One, we achieve a state where nothing arises. Okay? Second, if it arises, we observe it so that it does not manifest. If it manifests, we know that we will have to correct our way and repent it. These are the way. So, this is the practice of Smriti or practice of Sunya. And hence, if you see, Sunya is getting deeper, and the practice of Sunya is now getting a lot of meaning also. So, this is our second chapter on Anapana and Smriti. I think with this you shall understand the importance of the practice of Sunya and how an ancient sutra like Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra endorses us, gives us validity, why reverse counting, why observing the breath, why following the breath is all very, very important for you even to start your journey into dhyana. So these are the ways in which you practice your dhyana. So this brings us to the end of this chapter 2. There was just one hiccup when we had a break of power failure. Other than that, I think we have covered up the second chapter of the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra. So that brings us to the end of the session. A longer one, but an important one, because MAS is an interesting, we can say, sutra for us in Shunya, because it's our manual of Shunya practice and it endorses our practice. As we go deeper, you'll see it gets more interesting. So again, thank you so much for participating in this virtual sutra teaching session, studying session, and we will see you again next week. Till then, thank you so much and see you. Bye-bye.